Today I would like to introduce to you a movie which, according to my students, is one of the most important historical movies in Central and Eastern Europe, and everyone should watch it. Some call it the most important movie about Poland history as well. So now I will tell you the story of the movie Knights of the Teutonic Order, directed by Aleksander Ford in 1960. If a place in the history of the cinema was determined by popularity, Knights of the Teutonic Order would be considered as one of the all-time most important Polish films. It is estimated that up to 1987 it was seen by 32 million people, which to date remains an unbeatable record. This far from perfect historical film responded perfectly to the social demands of that time and became a significant element in the creation of national mythology. The circumstances of its production were specific. Knights of the Teutonic Order was created to commemorate the 550th anniversary of the Battle of Grunwald and was a part of the preparations for the millennium of the Polish state. The establishment of the Polish state is dated to 1966, when Mieszko I, ruler of a territory roughly coextensive with that of present-day Poland, converted to Christianity. The film is based on the novel of the same name by Nobel Prize winner Henryk Sienkiewicz. Do you know any other Polish writers who received the prize? There are Władysław Reymont, Czesław Miłosz, Wisława Szymborska and Olga Tokarczuk. But let's go back to the Knights. It was originally published as a series in a magazine between 1897 and 1900, as a novel in 1900. The movie Knights of the Teutonic Order, which I remind you was directed by Aleksander Ford in 1960, from the very beginning has two purposes: as a patriotic demonstration and as a huge monumental spectacle. The choice of Sienkiewicz's novel was determined by communist propaganda, which accused West Germany of attempting to revise the borders agreed upon after World War II. In example, attempts to take away the southwestern part of Poland, and wanted to visibly reprove it. Unfortunately, this immediacy leaves its firm print on Ford's work. The characters are shown in black and white. Germans are hypocritical, cruel, and bloodthirsty, while Poles remain noble, honorable, and just. The authors of the history of Polish film noticed that the contrast between the two nations is enhanced by the use of color. Lively when Poland is presented, cold and obscure when the action takes place on lands ruled by the Teutonic Knights. The Polish-Teutonic conflict is a background for adventures of individual characters such as Zbyszko z Bogdańca and Jurand ze Spychowa. Zbyszko, played by Mieczysław Kalenik, is a Polish nobleman, brave as a lion. He promises fidelity to the distinguished lady Danusia, but eventually falls in love with the Jagienka. Jurand's background is a bit more complicated. He is cruelly experienced by fate and has come across numerous misfortunes caused by Teutonic Knights. Their stories interweave harmonically with court scenes where historical characters appear, such as King Władysław Jagiełło, painted in a much better light than in the novel, and Duke Witold. The 15-minute scene of the Battle of Grunwald, crowned with the spectacular victory of Polish troops, serves as a final for the Knights of the Teutonic Order. After the premiere, Andrzej Wajda, one of the most important Polish directors, said that Ford's film blights everything that Polish film school tried to state in terms of cleverly opposing the official guidelines of socialist realism. Indeed, Ford's vision of the world is rather primitive. He approaches national myths in a very uncritical way. He makes no effort to provoke his audience to think more deeply. Instead, he confirms the national stereotypes according to the political line of the former first secretary of the Communist Party, Wiesław Gomułka. Yet, as a popular film, Knights of the Teutonic Order works well. Beside moments of naivety and kitsch, there are also some scenes which fall deep into one's memory, such as the blinding of Jurand or suicide of his torturer Siegfried de Loewe. This adaptation of Sienkiewicz's novel, after all, a pioneering venture, it was the first huge production in Polish cinema. In addition, it is made in a panoramic format on color film. Thanks to the skills of the production team, Knights of the Teutonic Order attracted an immense audience not only in Poland but also in Soviet Union, Czechoslovakia and France. Of course, we are talking today about the Battle of Grunwald. So, why we are talking about the movie Krzyżacy? Because one of the best and most remarkable scenes in the movie is the final scene where the Battle of Grunwald is depicted, in which the Polish army sings the first Polish national anthem Bogu Rodzica, Mother of God. The Polish army was said to have had about 29 to 35,000 of soldiers, when the Knights had about 21,000. On the 15th of July, the Polish, Lithuanian and the Teutonic armies stood opposite to each other. Ulrich von Jungingen and his army were waiting in a blistering sun. Jagiełło hoped that the Knights waiting in the sun while having their armors on will weaken. The head of the order decided to humiliate the king by sending him 2 bare swords without sword covers. The Polish king decided to attack. The battle lasted until the evening, and for the better part of it, the Polish-Lithuanian army was winning. But it changed after a few hours, when the Knights almost seized the Polish banner. But the Lithuanian army ringed the Knights. By the end of the battle, the Polish soldiers ravaged the Teutonic camp. During the battle, all of the most prominent members of order, so-called the elders, died. Among them was the head of the order, Ulrich von Jungingen. The Polish king was so honorable as to send the body of the defeated master to Malbork to let the members of the order bury him with respect. Jagiełło proved he was a competent strategist and a king who was not to be ignored. The Polish standing was elevated at the Jagiellonians, became of the greatest European dynasties. It is really worth watching the last scene of the Knights with the Battle of Grunwald, and it is definitely worth to see the castle in Malbork, which is still standing and which is one of the most beautiful castles in Poland. So if you will ever be in the North Poland, you have to definitely go there. The Knights of the Teutonic Order is one of the most important Polish movies, and it is at top of the list of the movies directed before 1989 with the greatest audience, 32 million of viewers. But the movie has a drawback, a difficult archaic language. It is easier to watch it with English subtitles, which contain a more modern language. I hope you will enjoy the show. I hope you will enjoy the night.